looks like an opening right through here. So I think you have the potential for man-made ingress into a natural cavern.
Right.
We scooped up 2 samples in the garden shaft, sent those away, and we found gold in the garden shaft.
Season 13 of The Curse of Oak Island has just delivered what could be the most explosive breakthrough in the history of Oak Island. Rick Lagina and Marty Lagina have uncovered something no one thought was truly possible. A hidden vault buried deep beneath the island, containing an estimated $150 million treasure. But this isn't just gold. What they've found points directly to the legendary Knights Templar. Inside the chamber are ancient relics marked with unmistakable Templar symbols, artifacts that could finally prove a connection historians have argued over for centuries. This isn't theory anymore. This is evidence. And the moment this discovery surfaced, the world started watching. Governments moved quickly. Powerful collectors began circling. Even the Vatican is rumored to be paying very close attention. Within hours, security on the island was dramatically increased as heavily guarded crates of gold and priceless relics were pulled from the ground. Because this is no longer just a treasure hunt, this is a discovery that could rewrite history and spark a global battle for control. If you want the full story behind this unbelievable Season 13 breakthrough and the secrets still buried beneath Oak Island, make sure you hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because what happens next changes everything. A thick Atlantic fog creeps in, low and heavy, rolling across the shoreline like something alive. It swallows the old wharf, slips between the trees, and settles into every corner of the island. The cold dampness cuts deep, but inside the war room, the atmosphere is electric. Rick and Marty hunch over a long wooden table cluttered with maps, laptops, and long-forgotten cups of coffee. At the center, a sonar monitor casts a green glow across their faces. What it shows is unlike anything they've encountered in decades. A massive anomaly pulses on the screen, so dense and powerful that each spike briefly disrupts the equipment. The coordinates lock in. A quiet, untouched section of Oak Island, undisturbed for over 150 years. There's nothing there, no markers, no signs. Just a lone, weathered cedar post leaning like a silent sentinel from another era. Marty studies the data, his expression tightening. The readings defy natural explanation. It suggests a single, enormous mass of refined metal. Or something even more extraordinary. Rick, without looking away, reaches behind him and pulls down an old leather-bound journal. Its pages are fragile, its spine cracked with age. He flips to a marked passage from 1795. The faded ink speaks of a hidden son of Solomon, buried where underground waterways meet beneath the earth. As Rick reads the words aloud, the room grows still. The description aligns almost perfectly with the anomaly's location, right beside one of the island's ancient flood tunnels, engineered to trap and drown anyone who dared intrude. Experts had warned them, drilling here could trigger collapse, flooding, even total system failure. But neither brother hesitates. This is the moment they've spent their lives chasing, and they're not turning back now. The decision is made. This is their next dig site. Hours later, the war room shifts focus. A digital maritime map glows on the screen as Doug Crowell overlays newly aligned coordinates. Instantly, something clicks. A tiny ink mark on a centuries-old chart lines up exactly with the anomaly. Barely visible, but undeniably there. The inscription reads, Sanctum Aurum Holy Gold. Doug explains the map dates back to the late Templar era. Marty responds by pulling another document, a translated fragment from sealed French court records. It describes the final days before the Templar order fell, when knights loaded treasure onto ships bound for lands beyond the known world. Those ships vanished, but ocean current models suggest they could have reached Nova Scotia in just weeks, arriving unseen into Mahone Bay. Ground-penetrating radar has already confirmed it. A chamber lies beneath the anomaly. Its walls are constructed from alternating layers of granite and crushed quartz, an intentional design. This structure wasn't formed by nature. It was engineered, and not just to hide something, but to protect it. By nightfall, the dig site roars to life. Floodlights blaze against the darkness as heavy machinery locks into position. Steel groans, hydraulics hiss, and engines thunder as the drill begins its descent. The first 20 feet are nothing unusual, layers of soil and compacted peat giving way under pressure. But at 35 feet, everything changes. The sound shifts, slower, heavier, as the drill cuts into a dense layer of blue-gray clay. Rick steps closer instantly. They've seen this before, the same rare clay found in the original money pit. It doesn't belong to this region. Tests previously confirmed it was transported from far inland and packed tightly to create a waterproof barrier. Whoever built this went to incredible lengths to seal something off. This wasn't the work of simple settlers. It required resources, planning, and advanced knowledge. For a powerful medieval order like the Knights Templar, it's not just possible, it makes perfect sense. The drill pushes deeper, the tension builds, then it happens. A thick slurry begins flowing back up, mud, water, and crushed material spinning under the harsh lights. And within it, something catches the eye. A faint shimmer, tiny flecks of gold swirl through the mixture, glinting with every turn. Marty leans in, eyes narrowing. This isn't natural gold ore. This is something else entirely. This wasn't raw gold pulled straight from the earth. This was refined, broken apart, and swirling through the returning slurry. Excitement surged through the team, but it was quickly matched by a growing sense of unease. The slurry began to bubble, but not randomly. The motion was slow, deliberate, rising and falling in a steady rhythm, almost like breathing. It wasn't any kind of pressure release they had encountered before. This felt controlled, measured, as if something deep below was reacting. Rick locked eyes with Marty Lagina across the drilling platform, the gold-flecked slurry churning between them. Neither said a word, but the thought was clear. Whatever was buried beneath Oak Island had just noticed them. The winch strained as another core sample was pulled up, water and mud spilling off its surface. But inside, something different caught the light. Not just fragments this time, a smooth, worked surface. Carefully, the team extracted it and sealed it away. Even before testing, the weight alone told them this was no ordinary piece. Hours later, under the harsh white lights of the field lab, the object rested in a tray. Gold dust still shimmered in the air as the panel revealed itself, a gilded surface marked with a distinct cross pate, reflecting the light like a signal from another century. Its edges were worn and distorted from immense pressure over time, yet the face itself remained flawless. No corrosion, no decay. As if time had never touched it. Silence filled the lab as the first reading came in. 99.9% pure gold. The signature matched perfectly with gold used under the Knights Templar-aligned Portuguese crown in the early 1300s. The precision was undeniable. This wasn't just treasure. This was origin. Proof. Marty leaned closer to the monitor, studying the engraving. The cross wasn't a rough imitation. It was exact. Identical to carvings found in Convent of Christ in Tomar, one of the last strongholds of the Templars before they vanished from history. Every line, every proportion, even the tiny imperfections matched perfectly. It was as if this piece had been taken directly from a sacred Templar relic and buried beneath the island. Then suddenly, static cut through the moment. Marty's voice came through the radio, steady but tight, relaying the discovery to the crew above. That's when the ground answered. A deep, echoing groan rose from beneath them, low and powerful, like the earth itself was shifting. At first, it was subtle, a faint vibration underfoot, but it grew, steadily climbing through the metal flooring, up through their legs. Rick stopped mid-step, his expression changing instantly. He had read about this before. In the Shinan parchment, one of the last authenticated records linked to the order and preserved by the Vatican, there was a line he had never forgotten. The vault shall answer intrusion as the horn answers the hunter. It hadn't been symbolic. It was a warning. Inside the dim lab tent, the meaning became chillingly clear. If the vault had been designed as a defensive system, then they had just activated it. Above ground, chaos followed instantly. The pump gauges began spiking wildly. Then, without warning, a violent surge of water exploded up through the borehole, rushing from a hidden channel deep underground. Amid the chaos, another object emerged, a solid gold bar. Stamped across its surface was a Crusader's cross, sharp, clean, untouched by time. Beneath it, a line of engraved numbers curved across the metal. Not random, but not immediately readable either, almost ritualistic. Rick leaned in, tracing the markings. They didn't look like simple identifiers. They felt intentional, symbolic, devotional. The gold itself was strangely warm, not just from handling, but from something deeper. Later tests would confirm residual heat from the intense friction of its extraction. Doug scanned it using a portable analyzer. The results were staggering, near perfect gold purity. But there was more. Embedded deep within the metal were microscopic traces, frankincense, myrrh, and even organic compounds consistent with aged olive oil. The combination was unmistakable. These were substances used in sacred rituals. The lab team exchanged stunned glances. This wasn't just gold shaped into bars. It may have once been something else entirely. A chalice, a reliquary lid, or a holy artifact, melted down and reforged. Rick stared at the bar, his voice quiet, almost distant. If this truly came from a Templar sanctuary, then everything buried below might be the remnants of sacred objects. Broken down, repurposed, a hidden war chest, forged from pieces of something holy. His voice carried that strange blend of wonder and discomfort, the kind you hear when someone realizes they are not just holding wealth, but a fragment of the past itself. And the deeper they looked, the clearer it became. This was only the beginning. From the brief glimpses captured by the downhole camera before the claw secured that first piece, there were many more below. Each flicker in the darkness hinted at another gold ingot, each one worth a fortune on its own. Even by the most conservative estimates, the total could grow into a legacy-level treasure. When the probe descended again, it confirmed everything. As the camera drifted through the dim chamber, rows of gold bars came into view, lined up with almost unnatural precision, like the spine of some ancient machine. Light swept across iron-bound chests, their hinges eaten by time, yet still holding firm. Between the stacks, resting on carved stone bases, sat ornate reliquaries, set with deep red rubies and wrapped in intricate goldwork, shaped like twisting vines. Marty Lagina spoke quietly, his tone shifting into calculation. That's at least 150, just in gold weight alone. He paused, already knowing where the numbers would lead. Adding historical value would push it into something almost impossible to comprehend. Rick didn't even look at him. "You know what this kind of wealth could have done back then?" he said softly. "Ships, expeditions, entire settlements, long before Christopher Columbus ever crossed the ocean. They could have been here first, shaping everything that followed." The two brothers exchanged a look, both realizing the same thing. The meaning of what lay beneath them might be far greater than the treasure itself. The camera kept moving, and then it showed something else. Set into the far wall was a carved alcove, holding two stone tablets. Their surfaces were covered in tightly packed Latin inscriptions, spiraling outward into precise geometric patterns. The symmetry was too perfect to be random. This was sacred geometry, the kind associated with both medieval cathedrals and secretive orders like the Knights Templar. Then, the chalice appeared. Caught in a slant of light, it rested inside a cedar box lined with decayed velvet. Its surface was encrusted with jewels arranged in a pattern Rick immediately recognized, from a 14th century depiction of the Lost Grail tied to Bernard of Clairvaux, a relic believed to have vanished when the Templar fleet fled La Rochelle. That single image froze everyone. Beside it, leaning against a chest, was a long sword, ornate, unmistakable. Silver inlays gleamed along the pommel, while the crossguard carried interlocking circular designs. Along the blade, two words were etched with precision: Deus Vult. The ancient battle cry of the Templars, still sharp, still visible after centuries. Doug finally broke the silence. "The gold might just be the distraction," he said. "The real treasure, the thing they were protecting, is all of this." Rick's response was barely above a whisper. We're not just looking at treasure, we're looking at history's heartbeat. And in that instant, everything shifted. The gold was valuable, but the story, the proof of a hidden chapter in human history, carried far greater weight. Even before the retrieval claw surfaced, that realization seemed to rise with it. Pressing upward through the earth, into the air, and beyond the island itself, Oak Island no longer felt silent or remote. It felt exposed, awakened. Searchlights swept across the island like watchful eyes, cutting through the heavy night air. The tension was unmistakable, sharp, electric, as if the world itself had sensed something had changed. The news hadn't gone public, but it didn't need to. It had already spread where it mattered. Historians whispered over secure lines. Private collectors began shifting massive funds. Hidden networks, quiet, powerful ones, started moving into place, like pieces on a chessboard. The government of Canada issued formal inquiries, carefully worded under the label of heritage preservation. But beneath the politeness, the message was clear. Off the coast, just beyond the reef, an unmarked vessel lingered in the darkness. No lights, no identification, just a silent presence against the horizon. Back on the island, everything changed overnight. Security was tripled. Floodlights turned darkness into a harsh artificial day. Private contractors moved in pairs, radios low, hands always ready. The hum of generators filled the air, drowning out even the ocean. The crew worked faster now, driven by equal parts excitement and fear. Because this wasn't just treasure anymore, it was something bigger, something dangerous. Across the ocean, in places far older than the Atlantic itself, others had taken notice. Reports began to surface, never confirmed, yet too consistent to ignore. A research delegation from the Vatican had quietly arrived in Halifax. Officially, it was about archived documents. Unofficially, no one needed to explain. Rick couldn't shake the image. Dark-suited figures stepping off a transatlantic flight, disappearing without a trace. This wasn't just about the past anymore. It was about who controlled it. One night by the fire, Marty said it plainly. This isn't just valuable, it's a lightning rod. And everyone understood. What they had uncovered wasn't just gold. It was a legacy. Older than nations, older than borders, maybe even older than the idea of countries themselves. And sooner or later, someone would come for it. Then the vault revealed one final secret. Without warning, the cameras caught something at the very bottom, something massive. A single stone seal carved from one enormous block. Every inch of its surface was etched with deliberate, intricate precision, as if it wasn't just meant to close the vault, but to protect whatever still lay beyond it. From the darkness, something far more unsettling emerged. A skeletal hand, its thin, bony fingers tightly gripping across, seemed to reach out from the stone itself. The carving wasn't random or decorative. It was intentional, a warning. Beneath it, worn but still readable, a line of Latin had been etched into the surface. Rick read it slowly, his voice dropping as the meaning settled in. He who takes shall be taken. The debt will be paid in blood. The air changed instantly. This wasn't the quiet focus of a working crew anymore. This was something heavier, like the past itself pressing in. Rick couldn't help but recall the old stories. Cursed treasures that brought ruin to anyone who claimed them. Ships disappearing after disturbing ancient relics. Families collapsing under fortunes they never truly understood. He had always dismissed those as legends. But now, the warning was carved in stone. And then, almost as if the vault itself responded, the winch above let out a violent groan. Without warning, the cable slipped. Metal screamed as it tore across the drum, and the massive chest dropped suddenly, slamming downward. The entire platform shuddered. A second line snapped with a crack like a gunshot, whipping through the air with deadly force. Two crew members barely avoided it as it tore into the wooden floor, leaving a deep gash behind. The chest held. The men survived, but only just. No one spoke after that, not for a long time. That night, inside the site office, the discussion stretched deep into the hours past midnight. A single bulb swayed overhead as Rick, Marty Lagina, and the core team sat around the table. Some pushed forward, arguing they were too close to stop now. That fear and superstition had no place in a discovery of this magnitude. Others weren't so certain, especially the ones who had stood there when the cable snapped. It wasn't just the warning carved in stone. It wasn't even the near disaster. It was the feeling, a quiet, creeping sense that maybe they had already taken too much. Rick stayed silent for most of it, weighing something far heavier than gold. Then finally, in a pause between arguments, he spoke. "We leave some of it." The words hung in the air. "We take what we need, what can be studied, what proves what we've found, but the rest, we seal it back. Not forever, just not now." At first, Marty resisted, but the more they talked it through, the clearer it became. The world wasn't ready for this, not yet, and neither were they. So, a plan was set. Only the most important relics and a limited number of gold bars, just enough to confirm the discovery, were brought up. Each item carefully logged, secured, and packed into reinforced containers. The rest stayed below. The vault entrance was sealed, layered with steel and concrete. The borehole itself was closed off, covered and locked down. From that point forward, access would be restricted to only a trusted few. By the time the final crate was loaded, Oak Island had begun to change again. A thick fog rolled in from the bay, swallowing the floodlights in waves of silver gray. Sounds faded, the crunch of boots, the hum of engines, even the distant crash of the Atlantic. It was as if the island itself was closing the curtain, hiding its secrets once more. Rick stood at the edge of the dock, watching the barge slowly drift away, its cargo locked in steel, silent and heavy. He didn't turn when Marty stepped beside him. Both of them stared into the fog, as if it might somehow reveal the centuries that came before. At last, Rick said quietly, almost to himself, "Oak Island never gives up all its secrets." He paused. "But tonight, we took one back." His words disappeared into the mist, and the island waited, just as it always had, for the next person bold enough, or reckless enough, to try again. And if you think this is where the mystery ends, think again. Because the gold, that's only the beginning. What still lies buried could rewrite everything we know. So, if you're ready to follow this story deeper, hit like so more explorers can find this journey, subscribe for the next chapter, and turn on notifications. Because when the next secret rises to the surface, you'll want to be there.